In AR 21, 3 months after the death of Tokasia, in the Yotian capital of Krug, Urza tried and failed to find work. First seeking employment as a scholar at the temple schools, then at the guilds. But not being a native Yotian, he was refused. Eventually he ended up in the service of Rusko the clockmaker.
Rusko. Failure in life. Cheat. Con man. Exploitative. But, in my opinion, might be the most important factor about bringing on the war. If not for him, Urza never would have met Kayla, never would have had the resources to build his machines to win her hand, and in turn, never become Lord Protector. All along, making sure he's within Urza's inner circle, of course until the fall of Krug when he's ever heard from again.
One afternoon in AR 21, Kayla bin Krug, the daughter of the warlord of Krug, entered the clock shop of Rusko, holding in her hand a defective, ornate silver music box. Rusko suggested his apprentice Urza could fix it. This would be the first meeting of the two, and in their 43 years of marriage, perhaps their happiest. The warlord of Krug had decided to hold a contest of strength. His daughter's hand, he decreed, would go to the man who could move a 20-foot jade statue from one end of a court to the other. Where all failed using the strength of their body, Urza succeeded with the strength of his mind. He constructed his own version of the Su Chi he had studied in the Great Desert.
There was a collective gasp from the crowd as daylight appeared beneath the jade statue. The construct pulled the statue straight up, holding it about a foot off the ground. Slowly, it spun all the way around so that its knees were now pointing forward. Then, the machine marched toward the opposite side of the court. The paving turned to dust beneath the giant's feet. At one point, we thought they both were about to tumble. But after a terrible noise from the machine, it reached the end and set the statue down. A roar of applause burst from the crowd, a sense of triumph in us all. In fact, I think I even saw the princess on her feet cheering. Yotian onlooker.
In just 1 year, Urza had gone from losing everything, his mentor, his brother, and his home, to becoming the Prince of Krug and Chief Artificer.
In Yotia, we believe a man has many souls. You don't wear the same clothes as you did when you were a boy, and you won't wear the same clothes when you're older. The same applies to souls. Most Yotian faiths believe that when you die, each of your souls is judged individually. You may be feeling guilty about what happened with your brother, or your late mentor. Don't. You have a new soul since you've arrived here, a Yotian soul. Let that be your guide. Rusko.
In AR 20, a month after Tokasia's death, Mishra found himself a captive and slave of the Suwardi tribe of the Falaji Empire and their Kadir. The Kadir was a massive man, said to be thick in body and twice as thick in head. He held great resentment to the coastal nation of Yotia, and the warlord in particular for the taking of the Suwardi marches. He promised his people to take them back, to return the Falaji to their former glory. For 3 months, Mishra dug. He built. He did whatever was ordered of him and asked no questions. Till one day he heard a familiar voice. Hajar was a young Falaji and friend of Mishra's from Tokasia's dig site. He had dreams to be a great warrior and soon joined the Suwardi after Tokasia's death.
Hajar, Mishra's eventual bodyguard and probably only friend, convinced the Kadir that they had a great scholar in their camp, and they had him digging ditches.
The Qadir needed a tutor for his young son, so he would be prepared to take his place someday. Eventually, Mishra turned out to be an excellent teacher. But the Qadir's son was 10 years old and had no interest in studies, just of learning about battle and his father's conquests. So Mishra used the thrilling stories of the past, legends and epic wars, to pique the boy's interest. Mishra and the boy grew a close mentor and student relationship, much like the one Mishra and his mentor Tokasia had.
The boy is doing well, perhaps too well. My fear, though, is that he listens to the Outlander too much. He leans on him as a man leans on a crutch, and if one leans too often, one forgets how to walk on one's own. When the boy comes of his majority, he will no longer need the crutch, and when that time comes, that crutch will be broken and cast aside. Qadir of the Falaji.
The Qadir was a very mistrustful man. He questioned his son's loyalties, whether he would continue his campaign against Yosha after he was gone. He wanted his son to be like him, and as Qadir, depend on nobody. Therefore, he ordered Mishra's death.
The stone, it sings to me in my dreams. It calls to me. It leads me to a place of steel and oil. The flowers are metallic and smells of a foul ether. The water is thicker, almost a syrup. The rain tastes like tears and leaves streaks of black. Then I see it, the dragon engine, and a figure riding atop it, laughing a dry, hollow laugh. Mishra.
10 months later, on a quiet night, the entire Sawardi camp is awoken by what was thought to be a night tremor, a shifting of sands cooling after the hot summer heat. As the tremor lasted and grew stronger, panic set in. Horses pulled away their tethers and ran away. Tents came loose and collapsed. The men scrambled to react to the assault they thought was happening.
The roar of the earth was so loud no one could hear orders. Then in the middle of the camp, the earth gave way, and from it burst out a terrible beast.
A Makfawa. The dragon engines of legend burrowed out of the sand and charged at the camp. It was chaos. Many of the guards fled. Those that stayed were cut down one by one, their sword and spears no match for the beast's metal hide. The Qadir, regrouping his men, led a charge head-on. The dragon engine made what sounded like a whirlwind inside its stomach and let out a billowing cloud of steam. It cooked the Qadir and his men alive, charring and peeling away flesh down to the bone. 300 men died that night. It was then that Mishra appeared with his weak stone in hand, that all went quiet. There, in front of Mishra, laying down like a subservient dog, was the Makfawa.
We have lost much this night, but perhaps we have gained much as well. New Qadir of the Falaji.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grace of wrath was stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
This program brought to you by viewers like you.